It takes light and it takes knowledge. This is a kingdom that functions by light. And it is important that believers be equipped. Now, did you know that in the course of my studying this series afresh, I discovered that Jesus never sent any disciples. He never sent the apostles to do anything, missions, without a thorough understanding of the structure and the system of darkness. It is a risk to ever explore anything that makes for kingdom come in ignorance, especially ignorance of the devices of the devil. Please, you must open up your eyes and your spirit to this teaching. Don't be distracted tonight. Let me do a quick recap. Part 1, last week we started by examining the biblical basis for the study of Satan, demons, and what we call demonology. Is there a biblical basis to study demons, to study Satan, and the operations of darkness? I did teach us that theologically speaking, for anything to be established as doctrine, there are 3 requirements. Number 1, it must be captured in the Old Testament. Number 2, it must be captured in the earthwork of Jesus Christ. And number 3, it must be captured in the life of the apostles and the early church. And we took our time to examine the concept of Satan, evil, and the reality of the operation of darkness in the Old Testament, using the fall of man, the story of Job, and Israel and their captivity in Egypt. We also looked at the ministry of Jesus, his temptation. Jesus himself taught on deliverance. Jesus administered deliverance. Then we looked at the lives of the apostles, Philip in Samaria, Paul mentoring the church in Ephesus and encouraging them, teaching them on the structure of darkness. Apostle Peter encouraged us to be sober and to be vigilant, because there was an adversary, the devil, who is seeking whom he will devour. And then John giving us an explanation from his vision in Revelation that Satan was that adversary, Satan, the old serpent. So we established the fact that from the Old Testament, the ministry of Jesus and the early church, the Bible gives us legitimate grounds to study on Satan and his structure. Then we went further to deal with the origin of Satan. You can get the teaching, the origin of Satan. I was not able to touch on demons, but we did look at the origin of Satan. We established a few things. Where did he come from? And I explained to us 2 schools of thought based on scholars and their understandings. We look at Ezekiel 28, Isaiah 14, Revelations 12. These are the fundamental scriptures that talk about Satan. I taught you the principle of prophetic parallels, remember? And then we explained the name Lucifer from the Hebrew tongue, meaning the shining one, the light bearer, and that the word devil comes from the Greek word diabolos, which means the accuser or the slanderer. And we examined a few names that Satan is called in scripture. He's called Lucifer, the devil, Satan, the thief, the enemy, the evil one, and so on and so forth. And but the most important part of the teaching last week, and I'm doing a quick recap on that, is what does Satan want? Why all of this attack? What exactly is Satan's objective? And we examined from scripture that there are 2 things based on the revelation of scripture that Satan is out looking for. Number 1 is dominion, and number 2, transgenerational allegiance. Please write that down and never forget it, that behind the ministry of stealing, killing, destruction, behind everything that is antichrist and anti-God and anti-kingdom, there is one singular drive that Satan alongside his demon spirits seek to achieve: dominion, that dominion that was given to man, and then transgenerational allegiance. The reality of transgenerational allegiance is what brought the structure for things like altars, curses, patterns. Because the assignment of altars, the assignment of curses, the assignment of patterns is to make for continuity from individual to individual. These are the legitimate systems in the realm of the spirit that can perpetuate evil even when the initiator has left. Are we together? Are you getting my teaching now? We'll do more of that today. So that Satan's passion for transgenerational allegiance sponsored his inventing this system that we call curses, this system that we call altars and patterns. Patterns are repetitive occurrences that happen to people within a predefined bloodline. Patterns. You find patterns among family members, usually negative. You find patterns among people within certain regions, patterns of irresponsibility, patterns of anger, patterns of theft, patterns of untimely death. All of these things are Satan's invention towards one goal. I'm demystifying Satan for us so that some of these superstitious ideas we've heard about him, as complicated as Satan and the dark world looks, there has always been a principal motivation or two: dominion, a quest, a thirst, an unbending passion for dominion, and transgenerational allegiance. He told Jesus, all these have been given to me, but I don't need them. All I need from you is, since you are a representation of the image of the Father, bow down to me. Bowing down is a prophetic language. It means acknowledge my lordship over you. Are we together? We wrapped up last week by looking at the fact that everything negative that has happened in your life, is happening in your life, is not really what Satan is after. So if you see barrenness or poverty or sickness or violence or irresponsibility or moral decadence or anything at all that is anti-God and anti-Christ, let it be known to you, dear believers, that Satan is not after those things. Those things are only a means to an end. What is the end? That he will gain dominion and he will bring whole territories to submit to him perpetually. And I shared with us that this is the same principle that is used in terrorism. That every time a terrorist captures a family member or a loved one, it is not the person they captured that they are interested in, but they are capturing that person to get the attention of the person and the thing that they want. Is that true? So when they capture your child or your loved one, usually they subject them to some kind of torture and they give you an opportunity to hear their cry, and in the presence of that lamentation you will become emotionally connected to their pain and you will easily bend to whatever they want. So that's what Satan does. If he makes sure that you don't have a child, or you don't move forward, or there is a death sentence on you in terms of a medical report, he knows that you will not suffer long with pain. You will usually go to look for alternatives. So he will cause the problem and be waiting at the other side of your pain to suggest an idea. Go to the village, go and sacrifice this, bow to this, bow to that. Unfortunately, because Christianity was not as strong as it is now in the days of our parents and grandparents and so on and so forth, most of these people, especially mixing Christianity with Trado-African religion, when Satan pressed on them, they went straight to these deities through mediums. And that was an opportunity for Satan. And most of these people, listen carefully, they came into covenants on behalf of whole territories.